Chapter 6, Epidemiologist, June 1944. We crowded around Bobby while we waited on the ambulance. He was laying on the couch with his head in Mama's lap, still as a stop sign. Not even his eyes were moving. "He's dead," wailed Ida. "No," said Mama. "He's still breathing, and feel how warm he is." I grabbed a hold of his hand, and it was hot. But I was cold, shivering and shaking, and my teeth couldn't stop clattering. It seemed like we were all shivering and huddled up to Bobby like he was the wooden stove in the middle of the winter. I forgot all about how it was a hot day. Junior kept walking to the window to look back for the ambulance and then coming back to offer us a drink of water or to touch Mama on the shoulder like he wanted to take Daddy's place but didn't know how. And I for sure didn't feel like the man of the house. Finally, we heard a car. Junior ran to the window and said, "Somebody's here, but it's sure not an ambulance." Mama picked Bobby up and carried him out on the porch, and we all followed. Then I seen what Junior meant. It wasn't an ambulance. It was a hearse. Mama cried, "No, oh dear God, no," and she turned to go back in the house. By that time, the driver had backed up to the steps and was climbing out of the hearse. "Don't let it scare you, ma'am," he said. "There's a shortage of ambulances, what with the war taking so many, and now the epidemic. Sometimes this is the only way we can get a child to the polio hospital, but it can save your boy's life just as good as the ambulance." He opened the doors to the back, and inside was a low bed. Junior put his hands on Mama's shoulder and turned her around. "It's okay," he said. The driver come and tried to take Bobby from Mama, but she held on tight. "Ma'am, you can come along with him. Is there anything you want to get in case you need to stay a few days?" Mama shook her head, and I knew she wasn't thinking straight. If she was, she wouldn't want to be seen in her everyday dress and apron, so I ran and got her pocketbook, and I grabbed her nightgown and housecoat from the nail on the back of her bedroom door. Daddy had took our suitcase off to war, so I pulled the pillowcase off of her pillow and stuffed her nightgown in it, and I threw in some underclothes and her Sunday dress and ran outside. When I got there, Mom was kneeling by Bobby in the back of the hearse, hanging onto his limp hands. I threw the pillowcase bundle to her right before the driver closed the door. It all happened so fast that none of us said goodbye to Bobby. And even though Mama said he wasn't dead, it sure made us feel like he was, him riding away in a hearse like that. Junior stayed with us the rest of the day and helped us dig potatoes. I would have let them rot in the ground if he hadn't been there to nag at me. Then he hoed the weeds. I couldn't force myself to cook supper, so I just poured everyone a bowl of cornflakes for everybody. Nobody but Junior had an appetite. He tried to cheer us up by playing a game of pretend. "Let's pretend we're going to Hollywood," he said. Hollywood is the last place I'd expect Junior Bledsoe to go, but I reckon he thought us girls would like the idea. "Let's pretend we can see anybody famous that we want to," he said. "Who would you want to see, Ida?" Ida twirled her spoon through her cereal. "Bobby," she said. "I want to see Bobby." "Oh," said Junior. "But what about a movie star? Which movie star do you want to see?" Ida just stared. "I don't want to see no movie stars." "Sure you do," said Junior with an extra helping of cheer in his voice. "Oh, I know. You want to see that Shirley Temple, don't you?" Ida picked up her spoon and held it out in front of her. She turned the spoon sideways and watched the cornflakes and milk dribble down and off and pop into her bowl. Junior gave up on Ida and turned to Ellie. "What about you? Let's pretend Shirley Temple is standing there with her head full of curls, cute as anything, right in front of you. What would you say to her?" Ellie slumped back in her chair and folded her arms. She didn't say a word. "Well," said Junior, "I see I'm on my own here. Okay, then, let's pretend we all go to Hollywood and suddenly right there in front of us is James Cagney. Now, wouldn't that be a Yankee Doodle Dandy?" For some reason, Junior is real keen on James Cagney, and he knew me and Peggy Sue seen him in the movie Yankee Doodle Dandy. But Junior was wrong if he thought a movie star could take my mind off Bobby and what I'd done to him. I got up and put a bowl of cereal in the refrigerator. "Let's pretend Bobby's not sick," I said. "Let's pretend you ain't sitting here acting like everything's hunky-dory dandy. If we pretend, will that make it true?" Junior dropped his spoon in his bowl and said, "I'm sorry, Aunt Faye. I'm just trying to help." "Well, don't," I said, "on account of it ain't working." I went outside to the back step and stared at Johnny's house, wishing the Johnny house, wishing a miracle would step out from that door. Instead, Junior came to the screen door behind me. I reckon I'll be going on home, he said, but I'll be back in the morning. Don't worry about us, I said. We'll be fine, which was a lie if I ever told one. Of course, there was no point in telling Junior not to come back. The next morning, he was on our front porch calling my name. I was drawing water from the well and wondering how in the world my mama and Bobby was doing. I'm out back, I yelled. He come around the side of the house with a small crock in his hand. Mama sent you some bread pudding, he said. She's sorry it's not sweeter, but we're out of sugar till we can pick it off the ration board today. I got the starter fixed, so the truck is ready whenever you are. He handed me the crock, and we finished cranking the water bucket up out of the well. I took the bread pudding inside and let the screen door slam behind me. I don't think I'll go for sugar, I said. I might not can blackberries after all. Junior followed me inside and poured the bucket of water on our water crock on the kitchen cabinet. Don't start talking like that, he said. According to the papers, this is our last allotment of sugar for canning this year. I'd pick it up for you, except you have to be there in person with your ration book. I'll help you pick them berries. You just got to do your part. You can't just stop living. I don't want to pick blackberries, I said. I don't want to can them, and I don't want to buy sugar. I just want to go to the emergency hospital and see Bobby. Well, Aunt Faye, I know how you must feel, but according to the radio, they got the police over there keeping people away from the hospital. The best thing you can do for Bobby is pick those berries and fix him some blackberry cobbler the minute he comes home, so get your overalls on. He just had to mention them overalls. I knew if it wasn't for Junior, I would just run off into the woods and stay out of the garden and the blackberry patch too. But there was work to do, and I was the man of the house, so I put on my overalls. Just then I heard a car pull up outside, and both me and Junior went running to see if it was Mama and Bobby back from the hospital. But two women got out of their shiny black car. The tall woman in the plaid dress spoke up. I'm Dr. Dorothy Horstman. Then she nodded towards the other woman. And this is Frances Allen, your public health nurse. Hey, I said, I'm Ann Faye Honeycutt. Ann Faye, I'm an epidermatologist from Yale Medical School, said Dr. Horstman. I study diseases, especially polio. I know, I said. I've seen you in the papers. Then you know we work at the emergency hospital, she continued. We looked in on your brother this morning. He's breathing easily with the help of an iron lung. An iron lung? All of a sudden, I couldn't catch my breath. I think that Frances Allen woman's seen it too. Oh, don't let that iron lung worry you, she said. Right now it's keeping him alive until he can breathe for himself again. That gave me some hope, so I asked, Is he going to get better? She squeezed my shoulder and said, He's got good doctors, some of the best in the country. Even one of the doctors from the President's Warm Spring Polio Rehabilitation Center is at the hospital. Dr. Horstman gave me a letter from my mama. She waited while I read it. Dear Aunt Faye, I just can't leave Bobby here alone. He's too little and he's very sick. I can't get close to him yet, but I can stand outside the door of his ward and wave to him. The hospital needs my help too. I'm working in the kitchen. I know I can count on you to take care of the girls, and you, Junior and Bessie, will help too. Remember the man who gave us the money at the train station? He volunteers at the emergency hospital. He invited me to stay with his family as long as I need to. I wouldn't have to use the gas coupons to go back and forth every day. But he lives nearby. Him and his wife want to help us as much as possible because of their little girl who had polio. Their phone number is 0577. If I don't come by Thursday, I want you to go to the Hinkles around 7 in the morning and call me. I'll be free then, and I'll tell you how Bobby's doing. You and the girls say a prayer for him. All my love, Mama. Thursday morning. It was just Friday now. How could I wait until Thursday? It almost killed me to think Mama could be gone that long. Dr. Horstman didn't give me no time to worry about seeing Mama or Bobby. She told me she and Nurse Allen was going to examine our house and ask lots of questions. They need to find out how Bobby caught the disease. I spent the morning answering questions for them strangers. They wanted to know what kind of milk we drunk and where our toilet facilities was. They asked me who Bobby had seen or touched or played with in the last couple weeks. They went through every room in the house taking notes. I hadn't washed a single dish since yesterday morning. The chamber pot hadn't been emptied either. Not only that, one of the girls had left the lid off the chamber pot, and there was flies crawling all over it like ants on a jelly biscuit. I put the lid on quick, hoping these women didn't notice, but they did. They even set up a trap to catch them flies. Dr. Horstman explained to me how the polio virus had been found on flies, and trapping them would help her research. The twins were both awake by now and hanging on to Junior like he was their daddy. "Which one of you left the lid off the chamber pot?" I asked. I wasn't expecting either one of them to admit to it. I just wanted them women to know we don't make it a habit to live like that. But how could I make them understand? When your baby brother gets hauled off in a hearse with one of the most dreaded diseases in the country, all on account of you made him work till he dropped. You just can't make yourself do all the things you do any other day. Before those women inspected our Johnny house, I told them, "Don't worry, it's clean. My mama takes disinfectant and a broom to it once a week. She scrubs it top to bottom." I felt bad that these women wasn't getting a true impression of my mama's housekeeping, and I was sure glad Mama wasn't there to see how I'd let it go. As soon as this woman was gone, a health officer came and hammered a sign to the front door. "Infantile paralysis in quarantine." I tell you what's the truth. When I looked at that polio sign next to the Blue Star flag Mom hung up there for Daddy being a soldier, I felt like I was looking down a double-barrel shotgun and fixing to get blown all to pieces. "How many people live here?" the health officer asked. "Just me and my 2 sisters," I said. "Mama went to the hospital with my brother. My daddy's off fighting in the war." The health officer looked at Junior. "You a neighbor?" "Yes, sir," said Junior. "You passed right by my house coming in." "Well," said the man, "I'm afraid you'll have to leave. Only family members are allowed in this house." Well, I could tell Junior Bledsoe wasn't going to take that sitting down. He stuck his thumbs under the claps of his overalls and said, "Sir, these girls' mama and daddy didn't have no choice in the matter. But I'll be dadgum if I'm going to run off and leave them too." The officer said, "Well, it's the law, so you really don't have any choice either. I'll drop you off at your house on the way out." Junior started to argue, but I jumped in. "Oh, go on, Junior," I said. "I can take care of the girls and you know it. What do you think my daddy gave me this overalls for? I'm the man of the house now." I winked at Junior when the man wasn't looking, so he could see I knew him well enough to realize he'd be back as soon as that man was out of sight. Before they left, the man turned and said, "I can see you're a strong young woman. That's good because I'm going to ask you to do one of the hardest things you've ever done." He took my arm and pulled me inside, away from Ida and Ellie, and spoke real low so they couldn't hear what he was saying. "I need you to wash every blanket and towel in the house and all of your brother's clothes. Scrub the house. Anything your brother touched could have the germs." The man took a deep breath and lowered his voice even more. "And here's the hard part. Your brother's toys must be destroyed. I want you to burn them. It's the only way to get rid of the germs. It's the only way to protect your little sisters. Understand?" I think I nodded at him. I guess I agreed. I must have, because it seemed like he patted me on the back and said, "Good. I know you can do it. I'll check back on you tomorrow." Then him and Junior got in his car and drove off. When they were gone, I tried to talk myself into burning Bobby's toys, but I didn't get around to it for the rest of the day. There's never a good time to do something like that, especially with 2 little girls watching your every move. So I started scrubbing down the house, washing all the clothes and towels and sheets, which I didn't nearly get done before Junior came and took us to the ration board for our sugar. When we were almost there, it hit me and Junior that I wasn't even supposed to go because of quarantine. But I knew I had to show my own ransom stamps, and so far, nobody besides us and Junior knew anything about the quarantine sign. So I decided to go in quick and leave quick. I made the girls stay in the car. While I waited in line for the sugar, I studied the war posters lined up on the wall. They was all about the stuff that I should be doing to help in the war effort. Plant victory gardens, buy war bonds, give my cooking grease to the butcher so he could give it to the army to make explosives. And that was just the beginning. It seemed like you couldn't go anywhere without seeing victory posters. They used to make me feel proud and helpful. I wanted to do what they said because it made me feel like I was helping to win the war. But today, just looking at the picture of the soldier and the words, "Do the job," he left behind, drained the last bit of energy right out from me. All the way home, I hung on to that sack of sugar like it was my sweet daddy.